June 6th, 1944. Operation Overlord. The invasion of Normandy. Many tales have been told of the events that took place in the months following that fateful day, but not everything that happened ends up in history books. Some accounts are left out, accidentally or purposefully. This is a story that you will not find anywhere else. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first bolt-action battle report by Friuli Wargames. Roberto here, and I'll be your host for today's game. Despite the third edition of the game looming on the horizon, we at FWG are still enjoying some second edition gameplay, and for our first battle report we wanted to bring you something spicy, a scenario freely inspired by the Dirty Dozen movie that many of you may be familiar with. It's a made-up mission, at 1000 points per side, where an elite unit of US paratroopers, or a cadre of dangerous convicted criminals if you prefer, has been sent on a covert mission to kidnap and extract a valuable Axis intelligence asset in the form of a German high-ranking officer, that according to partisan reports was stationed in a small country village on the outskirts of Chambois, with just a handful of attendants as bodyguards. The operation goes off almost exactly as planned. The target is secured and all guards easily taken care of. Unfortunately, as the GIs are about to leave the village for their programmed rendezvous with a friendly plane, they hear the sound of motor engines. A nearby detachment from a mechanized division was alerted by a German radio operator with his dying breath, and is now rapidly closing in on the paratroopers, hell-bent on recovering their officer. Luckily for the raiders, a US reconnaissance force is also in the area and immediately moves to intercept the Germans, unaware of the ongoing top-secret mission. The battle will last 8 turns. US victory condition is to exfiltrate the target from the bottom short table edge. Only paratrooper units are allowed to carry the target. Should the unit carrying the target be eliminated by shooting, the German general becomes an active field unit with an added order dice. This triggers the German victory condition: have the general reach another friendly infantry unit, at which point we assume he's escorted to safety. Should the unit carrying the target be eliminated in hand-to-hand combat, the German automatically wins. Once the German general is free, the US player can attempt to kill him, as the common soldiers are not aware of the secret mission and of the importance of taking the enemy alive. Should this happen, or should the paratroopers not be able to reach their evac point in time, the game is a draw. The general can be moved from one unit to another at the end of a turn if they're within 1 inch of each other. The German player isn't allowed to shoot HE rounds at a unit carrying the general with them. German troops enter from the west table edge on turn 1 in first wave, while the US reinforcements enter from the east table edge also in first wave. The airborne MMG starts the game in ambush. There are no other victory conditions. The German prisoner is all that matters. And now, without further ado, let's introduce the players, the teams, and the battlefield. The US general for today's battle will be Danilo, and at his command are the Dirty Dozen, aka one veteran lieutenant with an SMG, an 8-man paratrooper squad with one SMG, and finally an MMG. All of them are veterans. As for the other forces, we have one second lieutenant with an attendant, both of them have SMGs, and 4 identical 10-man teams. All of them are armed with a BAR, and the sergeant has an SMG. We also have another MMG, a bazooka, and finally an M8 Greyhound with additional HMG pintle mounted. All of the US forces are regular. The German forces will be led by Stefania, and they are composed by a second lieutenant regular with 2 attendants. They all have assault rifles. They ride a regular Kübelwagen, 2 regular MMGs teams, a regular medium mortar, a 10-man here Grenadier veteran squad with 2 LMGs and an SMG on the sergeant. They ride a regular Hanomag. We have 2 identical regular here Grenadier squads armed with an LMG and a sergeant with an SMG. One of the 2 teams rides an Opel Blitz, a regular, and finally a regular Stuch 42. And now, finally, let's show you the battlefield. Here is our lovely battlefield with a nice bird's eye view of it. We can already see our brave troopers of the Dirty Dozens divided into 3 small teams, the largest of which is the 8-man squad with an SMG. We have the commander and the MMG that provides covering fire. Inside the building is the coveted prize, the German commander. All the Dirty Dozen has to do is to just move outside from the other side of the table, all which while the Germans will try to counter assault as fiercely, as savagely as possible. The houses follow the normal rules for houses, the ruins are just ruins, and the wheat fields are arid terrain that provide light cover for infantry but do not block line of sight. This is the site the American reinforcements will be moving in from. The bocages provide light cover. They are impassable for infantry and vehicles, except in the places where you can find gaps into the bocage itself. The stone walls are just hard cover. They cannot be run through, except where there are the small gates that allow units to freely move from. The wooden palisades are just light cover and follows the same pattern. More wet fields and more wooden barricades. So this is the mission, this is the Dirty Dozen, this is their job. We see that the Dozen has prepared some barbed wire to block the movement of infantry, but that can be destroyed by tanks. And so finally, here's turn 1. Turn 1 begins in earnest with the Germans picking the first dice. We have Stefania already deciding to commit with the Stu 42 just to prove a point. Remember that the Stu 42 and the medium mortar are not allowed to shoot HE rounds at any unit that is actually carrying the German prisoner, because it would be too risky for its life. So the Stu 42 decides to just come engines roaring at maximum speed for the joy of Donald Duck of the MMG, that of course decided not to spring their ambush, as it would be no point in it. The second dice is American, and Danilo decided to bring on the table one of the American regular MMG teams. He brings him from the opposite table edge, trying to form some sort of covering fire for the Dosians should they be able to reach the other end of the line. Next die is again another American die. Danilo is usually a German player, so he has to think a bit about what to do next. He's pondering his alternatives. Of course, he's not really happy that the Stuch is already on the field, and the decision is finally made. The Dirty Dozen, or better said, the 8-man team, will run out of the building, of the safety of the building, and will just start running headlong towards their objective. With this, the game is finally on. The paratroopers have completed their movement, and now the next die is German. Stefania, after careful consideration, has decided to bring on the medium mortar. The medium mortar runs through a gap in the bocage to finish the movement behind a ruin. For this game we decided that ruin, while still being area terrain and hard cover, do not block line of sight. The mortar also has a spotter that, as per the rules, since they are entering from outside the border, use and share the same order dice. Danilo replies with a bazooka, that is basically the weapon that has the best chance to damage the assault gun, the Stuch 42. So brings them out with an advance order, trying for the big hit. It's not an easy shot, so he measures the range, and the Stuch is just barely inside of cover. Oh, he needs a 6 because we ruled that the barbed wire gave a light cover to the tank, so with a 5 he barely misses. Now more consideration, and it's time for another decision, and we'll be back right after. The choice is made, and it's the turn of the American First Lieutenant of the Dirty Dozen to moving in front of his buddies, and now yet another American dice. Finally, it's time for the entrance of another, or better said, of the first US regular infantry squad. Remember that all US infantry teams are the same, 10-man squads, sergeant with SMG and 1 BAR. Another dice is drawn, and this time it's a German die. We have once again Stefania pondering her options, and finally she decides to bring on the table the JFZ 251/1 Hanomag. The vehicle carries inside the veteran year Grenadier squads. It's time again for the Americans to move, and the choice is to bring on the table another infantry team. They also will be running in to close the distance toward the center of the board, where the main dirt road is. But there is no time to lose, because yet another German dice is drawn. This time it is an MG 42 team that takes the field, a medium machine gun team, and yet another German die to follow through. Stefania once again is pondering her eruptions, looking at what is left, and finally she decides to bring on the field the last MG 42 team, facing off against the American MMG team. Another dice drawn is grey for the Germans. Once again our Stefania is considering her options. Let's see what she decides. She decides to bring on the Opel Blitz, the truck, the regular truck. Inside of the truck is a German here Grenadier squad, a regular squad this time. The squad is armed with an LMG. Now it's time for our Danilo to decide what to bring on, and he decides to bring on another regular infantry squad. The teams that are on the transports are slowly going down, just to lose some time. It's the end of the round, so we are going for a small recap. The Kubelwagen has entered the team. Inside the vehicle is the German commander. Another German regular unit has entered the table, and the M8 Greyhound is taking a pot shot at the Germans behind the cover of the being very close to the edge of the bocage. We ruled that the unit is seen and sees outside of the bocage, and we have the first casualty of the match by the MMG. Now the additional HMG also shoots, but achieves nothing. This was the last shooting of the game. The first turn is close, with the Germans moving from the side of the table where the Americans will have to move out from. We have the Anamag with the veterans taking the middle of the battlefield, the Morton setting up shop also in the middle of the road, while the assault gun is trying to tackle head on the enemy paratroopers with the prisoner, with the German prisoner. Danilo forgot to spring his ambush once the German MMG moved inside. He will be taking that shot at the end of the round. The Americans are also trying to occupy as much room as possible, providing basically a sort of a carpet of troops for the paratroopers to safely move behind. So the last die is that the MG decides to shoot and fails. End of turn 1. Start of turn 2. The first dice is German, once again. And Stefania decides once again to start with the Stuch 42, which opens fire with both its MNGs on the paratroopers with the German prisoner, with the objective. She shoots at 5+ and gets 6 hits. Because of the paratroopers, of course, they just stand and accept to take the damage. And it's actually 2 men down. It could have been better, it could have been much worse. So it's 2 kills and a single pin, which should not prove to be too much of a problem for a veteran team, of course, right? Especially with the first lieutenant right beside them. And it's really the 6 men left that are chosen to act and move next. The test is taken on a 10-, and they do a nice run through the small door in the stone wall that allow them to run like it was open terrain. Then it's the turn of another American dice. The MMG, the paratrooper MMG airborne, takes a shot at the enemy MMG through the hard cover of the stone wall. It's 5 shots, again hitting on a 5+ due to hard cover. Danilo reaches for his dice and gets just a single hit, which is enough to force a single pin on the enemy, but it doesn't get any kills. The next die is yet again American, so a strong turn to start. And the decision is to put the Greyhound on ambush. Basically the idea behind this move is to make very dangerous for the German player to move the Opel Blitz with the regular here Grenadier squads inside, to move without risking of getting shred to pieces by the lighter anti-tank gun and the additional HMG. Then in the meantime, yet another American dice is pulled. The choice is to have one of the regular infantry units run inside one of the houses. So the crossroads starts to get crowded as the first team step inside of a building. The next dice to be drawn is a German one, and the decision will be to activate the MMG that was earlier being shot at.
12.
Fubar. What kind of Fubar? The kind of Fubar that makes you run to the hills. So straight 12 inches back from where they came from. For the next German die, we have an advance order by the regular here Grenadier team that had been shot by the Greyhound during the first turn. As you will surely remember, they had 1 dead and a pin, so they have to test on the morale, which they easily they easily manage to do. So they get unpinned and slowly advance forward through a gap in the bocage. The plan is simple: move a bit up to provide some covering fire, and in this particular case to put a pin marker on the ambushing Greyhound, which, by the way, elects not to spring the ambush, once again because Danilo was waiting for the Opel Blitz to move forward before ambushing him. It will not be a hard shot, so the unit basically advanced. Now they're in open field, so it will be a whole bunch of dice just looking for a single hit, since the M8 Greyhound is an open-topped vehicle. The decision was not too recce, so it's just a single pin for the Greyhound. Next dice for us is another German dice, and the decision was to move up one of the MMGs to set up shop in yet another building by the crossroads. Danilo gets to act next after thinking a bit. Also decide to activate a unit on the far side of the field from the point where the dozen started, and they also move closer to the dirt road that basically cuts the battlefield in a half. Since they moved into an area terrain, they couldn't run, so they just have to advance and elect not to shoot. They could have shot at the MMG that got inside the building earlier on with a few of them, but Danilo forgot, as we see from this high shot. Next order dice is again American. This time is the American MMG that moves. In the beginning, Danilo was considering an advance, but he made up his mind and elected to run instead, since the MMG being fixed couldn't have shot anyway. More American dice are pulled, and now we are acting in the middle of the battlefield, with American troopers running straight to the bocage. Facing them are still the veteran grenadiers. The next die in German, and it's the NMAG that decided to say hello to one of the regular US infantry squad, since they are now visible through the bocage. It's 6 4-up shots, and she gets 3 nice hits, and now a 4+ for a kill. It's just a single kill. It was out of the shot, I'm sorry. Of course, just having run, the unit wasn't able to react in any way. Next dice is German again. The veterans decided to leave the relative safety of their armored carrier and just throw a whole bunch of dice at the opposing forces. They got one dead from the NMAG. This is all 2 hit rolls for a total of
5 hits on them that wound on a 4+, and she gets an awesome 4 dead out of 9 GIs remaining. No special kills, no exceptional kills, but surely a hard blow for the Americans. 4 dead out of 9 remaining are not enough to warrant a morale check for having 50% of the unit killed from a single shooting phase. Next to act is the paratrooper officer, first lieutenant, who also decides to run in and get stuck in to start providing some nice morale buff from the American regular infantry that has just been badly shot up by the veterans. And finally, it's time for the Opel Blitz to make its move. It's an advance order which is stopped on its tracks, literally, by the Greyhound that opens fire first up with a pintle-mounted HMG, which is still a heavy weapon with +1 penetration. It's 4 up to hit because of the pin that's already on the Greyhound, and we have 2 hits and a single pin for the Opel Blitz and 1 pin for the occupants. Now the hard decision: shoot the MMG, 5 MMG shots, but Danilo goes for the single light anti-tank gun that, of course, roll a single one and misses. But as you might remember, we still had 2 HMB shots that hit the Opel Blitz, and actually one of them gets a 5 and gets the damage in. Danilo rolls on the vehicle damage table and of course rolls another one. So all he gets for his efforts is merely a stunned vehicle crew. The Opel Blitz doesn't get to complete his advance move since he now immediately goes down. The occupants also get another pin due to combat damage. This was quite lucky for Stefania. It could have been much worse. The American regular commander moves up a bit to provide some support, and the German general as well. It's actually another simple officer, decides to exit its Kubelwagen and shoots at the other regular infantry squads. They all have assault rifles, so it's 2 shots each for a total of 6. They do not get a penalty for moving and shooting. They are within out range. They just have -1 for cover, and it's an overall 4 hits and 4 dice to wound, and they get 2 more GIs down and a single pin. Last decisions: the Grenadier squads inside the Opel Blitz try to make a run for one of the buildings. They get the order even with 2 pins, and so this is what happens at the end of turn 2. The last section of the battlefield is occupied basically by 2 infantry units and 1 MMG for each side. The Germans have more firepower, but the Americans also have a Greyhound. In the center, two regular squads are under heavy fire, but the veterans, while the paratroopers are trying their best to make a run for it. Let's go to turn 3.
And here we are back for turn 3. This time the first dice will be an American one, and the first choice by the US commander is to activate the second lieutenant, commander of the regular platoon, for a snap to action, also activating the nearby infantry unit. The infantry unit goes into ambush. He takes an order test since he has a pin marker, but easily passed, while the commander himself, after thinking for a bit, just decides to go down since his SMG doesn't have range to anything interesting despite the massive German presence by the crossroads. The Germans reply with the Stug as usual. The Stug itself keeps on advancing, moving towards the Dirty Dozen and the bazooka, moving forward a bit less than the allowed the maximum movement allowance, also despite being into starting and finishing its movement on a dirt road, which would have allowed him to move at basically double speed. Remember, the Stug cannot shoot HE at the Dirty Dozen, and we decide to shoot the bazooka team. The bazooka team, quite worried for its own safety, decides to go down, so giving additional -2 to hit, which combined by the -1 for moving and -1 for small team gives us a double 6 needed to hit. It's 12 shots, 3 6s, but nothing to confirm, so the bazooka is safe and lives to fight another turn. One more German dies. After thinking for a bit, I decide to activate the officer for a snap to action itself. The other activated unit will be the MMG. The officer decided to shoot at the unit that just gone into ambush mode. They cannot shoot back. They get hit 3 times, and 2 more American soldiers bite the dust. Nothing, no special hits. And now the second order of the snap to action goes to the MMG in the building by the corner, and the decision is to shoot at the Greyhound to put a pin marker on it to make its life a bit more difficult, because remember, in bolt action, even just putting a single pin marker on a unit can really make the difference. So the MMG shoots, just looking for pins, and we get it. Next dice is an American one. The American troopers that had gotten into the building the turn before shoots at the German officer, shooting 2 men can shoot from every opening, remember, and the arc of fire is currently 180 degrees. So Danilo is collecting all the dice needed. We will be shooting from most of the openings. We are not yet in super close range. It's just a light cover, since it's not a small unit being a 3-man team, at least for the moment. So it's a rather easy shot. It's 6 hits that kill on a 4+. So it could be a unit wipe, but unfortunately it's just 2 dead. There's a 6 though, but no exceptional damage. So the German second lieutenant loses both of his aides that are shot dead by the Americans, and he has to check for morale, since he lost more than 50% of its unit, that thanks to his own morale bonus gets to remain in the game. In the center of the board, the SDKZ decides to move forward to get through the bocage and opens fire on the American troops in ambush. Again, they decide not to spring the ambush, most likely wanting to save their fire for the veterans, but risking and actually getting 1 dead, and more importantly, yet another pin, and this will prove the undoing of the American army probably. The mortar team decides to take a shot yet at the ambushing team once again. It's a 6+ shot, but we only get a 5+, which would be nice to be for the following round. Meanwhile, it's the veterans' turn. We have a very, very sad panda, Danilo, when the veterans don't move and just open fire on the American troops just before them. They decide to hit the dirt to avoid taking massive fire from the double LMG team. So that's quite a lot of shooting from the veteran team. And the American hold on the center of the board is rapidly dwindling as more and more American troopers fall dead. But here we are at the resolution of the shooting phase from the veterans. We have the shots have been made to a 6+ due to the American troopers going down. All in all, it's just a single 6+ hit, but the single hit turns out to be an exceptional damage, and we decide to kill the American sergeant. Next die is American. The Americans decide to open fire with the MMG by the stone wall, and the MMG shoots at the German infantry here grenadier squad in front of them. It's a 4+ shoot, since there's the hardcover of the building, but super close range within 6 inches. We have just a single kill due to the extra protection rule afforded by the building. The Americans try to keep up the pressure, keeping in mind the 1 inch gap rule that will have to make sure that they don't risk shooting their own men, their own friends. In the beginning, Danilo was considering staying put, but then eventually decides to just move a bit forward, since Americans don't get a minus for moving and shooting anyway, and don't want him to risk moving too close of the stone wall. So we are over 6 inches. There's no penalty for moving and shooting, but there's still hard cover for the Germans. But really, what's important for them is to get at least one pin on them, so that the total pin counter goes up to 3, making the unit not really useful battle-wise. The American starts shooting. First of all, there's the sergeant with an SMG that achieves nothing. The rest of the team opens fire, gets 2 hits with the really important pin that we just talked about. In order to kill, it's a 5+, but thanks to extra protection, there are no dead. The German decide to try to move the Opel Blitz with 2 pins that was stunned the turn before by the HMG of the M8 Greyhound. Thanks to the leader's presence, the Opel Blitz gets to remove 1 pin and move. Remember, it's an empty transport, so should it end its move closer to enemy units than to friendly units, it gets automatically removes as the crew basically surrenders or just decides to call it a day and go back to friendly lines. German dies once again, getting sorted some of the other dice that were put not so orderly before. So it's time for the Germans once again to move. The order is an advance, and once again the objective is to put 1 more pin marker on the M8 Greyhound, which is actually the most dangerous enemy for the Germans in this part of the board. Range is checked. It's just a close range shot for the LMG. We decide to just take the LMG shot that gets the pin marker on the Greyhound, so there's no point in throwing more dice. Let's move to a recap at the end of turn 3. The MMG is shooting, moving back up on the board. The airborne MMG has killed 1 veteran. The paratroopers are still running, moving downfield. The Greyhound had received a fire order, but thanks to the pin markers that been put on them, fail, and reverse back. Meanwhile, the infantry unit that got 2 pins realize the other teams stay put. End of their turn. As we reach turn 4, the situation for the Americans isn't easy since they are under a lot of pressure. The Germans once again get the first dice of the turn. It's an advance order from the Stug, which makes a hard right turn and an advance at double speed thanks to moving, beginning and ending move on road, and goes for a double machine gun shot on the regular American troopers, who go down to try and avoid getting shred to pieces. 12 shots. It's a single hit for the Stuch and no kill, but still yet another unit that is pinned down. Next order is American, and the US troopers in the corner house take a shot at the regular here Grenadier German squad. The Germans go down in response to try and cut the losses, but it turns out they didn't really need to go down, but that's okay. It's still 1 pin and a single kill. That is not even a special one, just a regular guy biting the dust. The Americans get the next order, and again they try to put some pressure on the Germans. The regular team shoot at their counterpart hiding in a house. They open fire with all they got, but all they manage are 3 hits. They get a single pin. Remember, they rallied at the end of last round. And thanks to the extra protection rule, once again, they inflict no casualties. Still, the Americans shooting. The airborne MMG keeps shooting at the veterans, trying to put some pressure, even though with hindsight it would have probably been better to go into ambush. But alas, all the Americans get, it's a Yahtzee of 2s and not a single hit. The Germans immediately try to sort of capitalize on this, and before the Americans get to do anything else, the MMG opens fire on the bazooka team. It's a long shot at a small target, so it's 6 shots at a 5+, for a single hit for 1 pin and no kill. Of course, this news is not really enjoyable for the Stuch crew, but that's life. The American keep firing with their MMGs, but again they achieve absolutely nothing. There must have been something wrong with their weapon or with their armors. It's America time once again. The American regular second lieutenant moves closer to the Greyhound to provide some morale support and encouragement. For the next die, the American decides to activate the Greyhound itself. We see Danilo not being really happy at how things are turning out, because the Germans are really putting a lot of pressure, and there's a Stuch moving menacingly close. He goes for a rally that achieves complete unpinning of the unit. This could prove really crucial for the next turn, with the Stuch drawing close. German die. The Hanomag opens fire with its MMG at the regular American infantry squad. They also go down to try and cut their losses. Despite going down, they still get hit once by the MMG that also claim one life. The Germans get another turn. The cruel American, the cruel German general decide to have the veterans move forward, jumping over the stone wall and shoot at the dozen. They pass their morale, the order test, because they had one pin from the earlier turn, and they just barely get to have 3 men be close enough to the bocage on the other side of the road to be able to shoot at the paratroopers. Now here is where it could have been crucial to have the ambushing MMG in the bunker. Even though we know that they rolled 5 twos, which would have been complete misses, even when shooting at the open. But still, even the menace of 5 shots at troops in the open would have probably made some difference, at least in the reasoning of the German player. But alas, the Germans open fire on the paratroopers. They get 3 hits through at a -1 to hit, and a single kill that doesn't turn out to be the Sarge. Shaking the bag, it's time for another American order. And this is where the American player tries to go all in. This will be a crucial shot, as the bazooka team that survived the fire by the enemy MMG from downfield moves forward and tries to get a back shot at the Stuch 42. Now we basically twisted a line of sight a bit here, since it looked cool to have the bazooka trying to get the big shot, but unfortunately the shot is still a miss. The Americans have more dice. This is another snap to action by the airborne first lieutenant. They go for an advance move. The paratroopers manage to gather their order test all right, despite the pin marker that has just been put on them by the veteran grenadiers, and they slowly start advancing into a small canopy of trees that will provide them with a modicum of cover. We are almost at the end of turn 4. Let's go for a quick recap. The medium Morton has tried and failed to get a bead on the bunker, but misses. The German lieutenant tried to move toward the houses, but failed. The Opel Blitz has moved downtown, but more importantly, the German ENG shot and killed 2 American troopers, and the German infantry wiped out the American MMG with some insanely precision fire. It's the end of turn 4. Things are looking quite grim for the Allies. There are 5 more paratroopers. They still have a long way to go, and there are many Germans on the horizon. Let's see what happens in turn 5. Top of turn 5. The Americans are in dire straits, but they will not give up without a fight. First dice is once again German, and the choice is to try and take out the bazooka team before it gets to fire on the Stuch. The machine gun opens fire. They get 2 hits on the bazooka team, which remains standing, hoping for the best. The loader gets taken out, and the gunner has to test on an 8- for morale, but he has absolutely no problems remaining on the field, but he gets a permanent additional -1 to hit. Next dice is American, and it's the bazooka himself that decides to take matter in his own hands and tries to take out the Stuch 42, the assault gun, before he moves up to deal with the Greyhound. The bazooka man advances boldly, proudly. It's not an easy shot. It's quite a tricky shot indeed, because he moved, because he's alone, and because there are the veteran grenadiers in front of him screening him. So it's a difficult shot. It's a 6-up shot. It's a big shot, and it misses tragically. Very, very unfortunate for Danilo. But the tragedy arrives in the face of a Stuch 42, who advances at double pace, again due to moving on a dirt road, and the assault gun opens fire on the poor Greyhound that has nowhere to recce away to avoid the shot. Medium machine gun fire is enough to put a pin on him, just a sort of plan B, and the big shot, it's a hit. The medium howitzer shooting directly as +3 penetration, so 5 + 3, it's an 8, it's a penetrating shot, and the third 5 in a row means it's bye-bye Greyhound. Next dice is American. The troopers inside the building decide to shoot on the German unit like last turn. As a reaction, the Germans just go down. But when it's time for the Americans to shoot, they fail their own morale check, their own order test, so both units go down facing each other. The enemy keeps pummeling on the infantry before him. The infantry decides to go down as a reaction, so it's 6 shots with hitting on 6s and no 6 inside, so the infantry are safe, at least for now. The new ice is German, and the veterans decide that it's time to finish the game, so they move to once again shoot at the paratroopers carrying the hostage that are desperately trying to run away. Some careful movements. Of course, we have to remember to respect the 1-inch gap rule. So while Danilo very helpfully moves the Germans, the Americans still benefit from light cover from the trees. The range is short range for the LMGs that once again will throw quite a bit of firepower on the poor paratroopers. So here we are taking a bunch of dice with the LMGs, hitting on 5s and getting 4 solid hits. First of all is another pin, hitting already to wound. It's just a single wound, so it could have been much worse. Then we round up the shooting with the rifles, with the simple rifles. They shoot, but cannot manage anything good. So once again, the Dozen lives to fight another turn. The second American regular infantry squad moves up to the stone wall and opens fire on the unit opposing them inside of the building. They really have to do something if they want to do something at it. And actually, yeah, this is very good. It's actually 7 solid hits on the regulars inside of the house. The shots, once again, are wounding on a 5. They are regulars, so it would be a 4+, +1 for the extra protection rule. So it's like they were veteran in this case. Danilo isn't really enjoying the extra protection rule, but yet it's 4 German soldiers in one volley, and that's a very solid hit. No criticals though, but it's almost 50% of the squad wiped out in a single volley. The medium mortar once again changes its targets, shoots at the bunker without any kind of success. The Americans will be moving next, but we are already moving to a quick recap. The airborne MMG and the first lieutenant shoot at the veterans. They manage 2 pin on them, but no kills. The last remaining troopers rally with a single order. The German officer fails the movement order once again. And finally, the last shooting by the Germans with the MMG and the regular troopers shoot at the Americans that had advanced before, and they put a lot of hurt on them. Meanwhile, the last few surviving paratroopers have almost reached the end of the woods, but the Stuch is waiting. End of turn 5. And we are back for turn 6. Turn 6 begins with a nice American dice. Danilo thinks and decides to move up the first lieutenant to shoot up the veterans some more, but he tragically misses both shots with the SMG. But he had the snap to and ordered sole survivors of the regular infantry squad to assault the veterans in hand-to-hand combat. So they proudly fix bayonets and charge. It's quite a desperate charge. Their only advantage is they will get to strike first, since the closest model is out of cover. They pass the order test and bravely step forward. It's just 5 of them, including the sergeant with the SMG. One of the regular troopers gets a kill and the surge misses. We check if there's exceptional damage, but there is clearly not. And now it's where the hurt arrives, since the veterans get to strike back in anger. There are quite a few dice to be thrown, and the Americans are just dead like that on the spot. No mercy. Plus, the veterans also get to consolidate, and they get to move 4 extra inches. Of course, they want to move closer to the paratroopers, and that's exactly what they do. At the end of the consolidations, the veterans just manage to get beyond the stone wall. With the next dice, the German Hanomag moves to shoot up the bazooka with a double pivot of up to 90 degrees, and with the medium machine gun on board proceeds to unceremoniously slaughter the poor bazooka man. I guess that's what comes up when you fail to take out your objective, that was the assault gun. Of course, we know that doing this, the Germans exposed their transport, but it was a risk that they were willing to take. In the meantime, the other German MMG shoots at the troopers in the house in front of them. They go down. They get hit once, and no wound. The second German unit, while they only have 5 models remaining, they still are able to pump some nice shots on the Americans, and the neighboring Americans decide this time to go down and trying to survive, and that's exactly what they managed to do, since the Germans whiff with all of their shots. It's America's time again. This time the choice is to try another gambit with another move by the second lieutenant. The second lieutenant will try to halt the advance of the veteran, while with a snap to action he orders the paratroopers to try and risk it all, because this is their only chance to go for a victory, since by running 2 more turns they would be able to complete their objective. Of course, this means that we will risk the wrath of the assault gun. As we said, the second lieutenant with his attendant move up to shoot at the German veteran squad. So we have 2 SMG firing for a total of 4 attack dice. They manage to get some hits on the vets, and it turns out in just a single kill and a pin, of course. Remember, pins are very, very important, always in Bolt Action 2nd edition. Now, the German mortar tries to be useful by shooting at the bunker once again, needing 5 to hit, and gets a 2+, so no luck there. The Americans keep trying more gambits. This time is a desperate assault by the 3 surviving infantrymen on the Hanomag. They see their target, and since their target is an open-topped vehicle, they do not need to test for tank fear. They have no anti-tank grenades. They need 6s to hit since the vehicle has moved in advance, so they get 1 hit. Now they roll for penetration with a +1. If they get a 6, the vehicle is immediately destroyed, but of course, yet another 1 means that the Hanomag is relatively safe. So it's time for a consolidation move after the hand-to-hand combat, which turns out to be a 4. So the 3 guys just try to get themselves some cover from the veterans. Of course, they still need to respect the 1-inch gap from the transport that is still active, since it will be destroyed only at the end of the turn. Next order die is German. This time it's the medium machine gun that fires at the airborne medium machine gun in the bunker. So 6 shots. We thought they hit on a 5+, so we got 2 hits, no kills. There was also the extra protection rule. Times are tough, guys. We will move now to the recap of the turn, and this is where it all ends. The Stuch has moved forward with an advance order, as with double MMG shots, has proceeded to completely wipe out the proud paratroopers. This meant that the general was free, he got an order dice, and he moved closer to the German veterans, who in the meantime executed the 2nd lieutenant. The German commander moved forward to try and provide some morale bonus to the veterans. The 3 American regulars are still alive. They will destroy the Hanomag at the end of the turn, due to it being an empty transport with no troops close by. But that's it. The American cannot win anymore. Can the German? Let's see. As you will remember, the German victory condition is now unlocked, and it consists of the German general being able to reach 1 friendly infantry unit, and the only unit in range is the veteran grenadier squad, which in the meantime decides that it's time to assault the airborne 1st lieutenant. They managed to pass the order test, fix bayonet, and then charge in. There's still 7 of them, so it shouldn't be too hard of a task. And yeah, it was really easy. The American general gets to strike back, but manages nothing, despite having an SMG with him. The consolidation move is a paltry 1 inch, and so the veterans crawl towards their officer. If the Germans get the next dice, it's over. And we still have a game on our hands, since the dice turned out to be an American one. So, trying all they can, the Americans decide to move their regular infantry squad. They pass their order test with a -2 penalty due to pins, leave the relative comfort of the house they were sitting in, and boldly advance and try to shoot up the former prisoner, now on the loose, since remember, these guys don't know that the German general needs to be captured alive, so they just want to kill him dead. Should they manage to do that, the game will be a draw. So the squad moves up. They still have 1 pin on them. Only 2 men can actually see the enemy model that reacts by going down, so it will be 3 shots hitting on a double 6. It's a very difficult shot, but it could be enough to warrant a draw for the US player, for our Danilo. The range is measured, tension is building up as he reaches for the dice and proceeds to roll a single 6. Can he double that? Can he achieve the impossible? No. Close, but not cigar. The German general lives, at least for now. And now the Germans, that are having more and more a dice advantage in the bag, capitalize and try to close the game. The German commander shoots up the last three regulars alive and butchers 2 of them in cold blood with his assault rifle, leaving only the trooper with a BAR alive. He makes his morale check due to being left alone, the sole survivor of his unit. More German dice are drawn for the pool, and we move to the recap for the turn. In the recap, the American airborne MMG has managed to wipe out its counterpart. The last bar trooper tries a desperate long shot on the prisoner, but fails miserably. The regulars have tried their best but didn't achieve anything, while the last infantry squad is badly shot up by the regulars and the MMG. The Stuch 42 loomingly, slowly turns. Okay, it's already time to draw the dice for turn 8, and it's over. It's a German dice. The dice will be given to the German general that, with an advance move, manages to get to his allies, to the veteran grenadiers, and win the game for the Germans. Well, this is everything for today's game. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. This mission was not meant to be a particularly balanced one, just something fun, something different for us and for you to enjoy. Thank you to Danilo for the game and for Stefania for the support. Thank you from everything. I'd like to hear your comments below. Stay tuned and see you for the next video. Bye bye.